Hello and welcome to our webinar. I'm joined today by the fabulous Naomi of Embrace Fertility and Linda, a fabulous reflexologist. We form part of the Seed Wellness team over in Henley, and together we are also part of the Seed Childbirth Collective. And this month, our health campaign is focusing on fertility, pregnancy, and the journey beyond that as well. So, I'm an acupuncturist and I work a lot with women going through fertility. And I see every day how powerful it is when we address the whole person. It's not just symptoms or looking at the timelines. And, when you are going through fertility and you're often, the 2 week by 2 week by 2 week, that can become quite tough. So we've got Naomi as a mindset fertility coach. So she helps people navigate this emotional roller coaster, reducing stress, reducing limiting beliefs, and creating that trust back with your body. And with reflexology, obviously working with the feet, but also the nervous system, which helps to support hormonal balance and circulation. And they're both going to delve in deeper and tell us a little bit more about what they do. But together, we're going to talk today about how natural and holistic therapies can truly support you through this journey. So, should we start, Naomi, with you? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you do it, before we delve any deeper?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I went through my own infertility journey and ended up doing 4 rounds of fertility treatment and having a miscarriage before conceiving both of my children naturally. And while I was actually still going through treatment and trying myself, I retrained as a hypnotherapist as I was learning that the thoughts I was having about treatment, about trying, they were the things that were impacting how I felt about it. So I was having panic attacks, I was incredibly stressed. And then once I learned that it wasn't actually the experience I was going through that was creating the stress, it was the thoughts I was having about it. I became fascinated in learning more about this and now support women globally to really understand the beliefs and the thoughts that are impacting how they feel while they're waiting for their baby.
That's amazing. And when someone's struggling to conceive, what's the most common mindset pattern that you're sort of seeing?
So, the biggest one for most women who come and work with me is the fact that the thought that they're waking up every day with, what if it never happens for me? And that's the same as what I had. It's like every single day waking up and going, what if I'm just not meant to be a mum? What if this just never happens? We were trying to conceive for almost 4 years. And so for that entire time, it's like, well, what if never? And that creates a huge amount of stress and upset, which is actually unnecessary because if someone could have gone forward in time and gone, oh yeah, you're gonna have 2 kids, they're both gonna be ginger, it's gonna be great. All of that worrying and stress would have not been needed. But obviously we don't
Yeah.
have a crystal ball. But so yes, that is a big one that I support all clients with, that belief, switching that belief from what if it never happens to me to I'm doing everything I can to support my body to do this. And, fingers crossed, like there's not that toxic positivity of like, I will be a mum, but the likelihood is most women will become a mum or most people will become parents. So if you're holding on to that, like this probably is going to happen for me, is a lot easier to ride out the weight than thinking I could be doing all of this for nothing.
And how do you see that kind of mindset manifesting in the body?
So generally a lot of tension and a lot of action taking. So this could be like Googling in the middle of the night, symptom spotting, trying to fix and control and make it that, you can sort of solve the puzzle of infertility by trying harder. And then it can also lead to, like a dysfunctional relationship with food. So maybe restricting foods and cutting out a lot of things in your diet or trying to be healthier with your diet but maybe not giving yourself all the nutrients you need through trying to control rather than really understanding what your body needs. And so if you're removing that stressor you can make decisions and choices from a place of logic, calm and confidence rather than fear.
Yeah, it's so hard because that position of stress, it is a stressful journey that they're on, or it can be. And everyone knows what chronic stress does to the body. So it's trying to sort of navigate and manage that and help them kind of see. actually how to cope with those levels and how that's sort of preventing you kind of from moving forward. And I see it a lot in clinic. And one of my main sort of jobs is to try and get them just a little bit calmer. And we talk about how do we reduce stress levels, um, and how do you feel that those stress will then work on in terms of their emotional stability?
So definitely, so if you imagine if someone's going into treatment feeling like this has to work, if this doesn't work, my whole world is going to fall apart. They're
Mm.
putting a huge amount of extra stress and pressure on themselves going into that treatment. Whereas if they can go into it going, I really hope this works. I'm doing all the things I can, but how can I also keep myself balanced and happy throughout this time? It makes it a lot easier to ride through that time.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, I talk a lot about this 2 week wait because whether people are going through the journey naturally or whether it's assisted, you have 2 weeks till ovulation and then you have 2 weeks to wait for results. And, this 2 week wait, and we get stuck in this sort of waiting for answers, waiting for cycles, waiting for tests, waiting for outcomes. And it just feels, for them, it's a little bit relentless. Have you got any sort of tips or tricks that you use to support clients when they are waiting?
So, a lot of the work I do is helping to reprogram the subconscious mind, and we'll be doing that with hypnosis tracks, with EFT tapping. And so, we can be using techniques like the tapping in the moment if you're feeling really stressed or you have a repetitive negative thought which is causing you, discomfort, upset in the body, and then be listening to the visualization tracks and visualizing what you want to happen. And this can be a really nice break from like having to take action the whole time and like take your medication or go for scans. Lie down, relax. And I think this is how this my work works so lovely with what each of you do as well. That a lot of I'm helping women sort of take an active role in what's happening in their minds, but having that time where they can just lie down and let their body do it. And this is where your practices come in as well, that you've obviously got that coaching side of what you're doing as well, but allowing the body just to pause and let the body do what it's designed to do.
Yeah, and I think for women that are going through this process, actually that's kind of fundamentally one of the things that it's not doing what it's supposed to do, and they feel a little bit failed by their bodies or whatever it is. And I think that's quite a hard, again, another journey to come through. And do you see that in the ways you work?
Yeah, definitely. And that's can be a big one that, especially if someone's been given a diagnosis, so endometriosis, PCOS, ovarian cyst, perhaps. So you can sometimes see that as like, oh, this is a reason why I'm not getting pregnant. And with this diagnosis, I may then never get pregnant. Whereas actually that's just like giving us a clue of this is something that your body is struggling with at the moment. How can we support your body? And looking at those beliefs. So a lot of the work part three of the Embrace Fertility Method, my online course, looks at the relationship you have with your body. And so if you've had painful periods from, early teens, the relationship you have with your womb is probably going to be quite dysfunctional that you maybe take pain medication to shut her up and just ride on through your cycle. Whereas once we can learn to embrace our cycle and see, the different stages are all beautiful and all needed, it's such a mindset shift from this, what if I'm pregnant? I might be pregnant. Oh, I've got my period. Oh, what if you're like on that complete roller coaster. Whereas if it's more like, oh, look, my cycle is more regular. The bleed is a better color. I'm understand. I'm not having cramps. I'm not having pain. All of those things can then be an indication that your body is changing.
Yeah.
Because until we're actually, we're pregnant, but we have been pregnant for maybe 10 to 14 days before we find out we are. So it's also kind of living in that state of, I could be pregnant before you find out you're pregnant. And then you kind of have that grief of what you thought you were, and it kind of messes with your head. Whereas if you can see it more like, oh, this 12-week period or this 6-month period, rather than, yeah, being in these spikes.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And you touched on some really important points there that come up in acupuncture quite a lot. The fact that, periods shouldn't be painful, they shouldn't be flooding, and they shouldn't be, this thing that we live to fear. And, as teenagers, so many teenage girls are now, literally fobbed off, oh, it's irregular, I don't know when it's coming, it's a bit heavy. Well, you go on the pill then. And we have, this, I think we're sleepwalking into this kind of cliff edge with our fertility because the there's the HPO axis, which is the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the ovary, and this little link has to, click into process really, and it takes a while to find its rhythm. And once it has, periods should settle naturally. And I do a lot of work with, teenage girls, and now coming in, sort of recognizing this. Well, I'm doing loads of work to educate their mothers and be like, just don't put them on the pill quite so soon. And I think that that's, there's a lot of education to kind of be done on that. You said something else that I was going to pick up on as well. Yeah, I mean, a lot of when I'm diagnosing for fertility, I go through all of those questions. I want to know all about your period, all about the blood, all about the consistency, the quality, the quantity. And these poor women look at me like, oh my gosh. But it's really, really, it's really good. And I think one thing I would say is, when you are going through this journey, is to change up your period care stuff and invest in a cup, because by using a cup, you really get to know your cycle and your period. You really know almost hour by hour when you're going to be heavy and when you're not. So you can then start to tie that into your life, because if you know your heaviest period bit is going to be between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., you can decide exactly how you're going to live at that time. And it's absolutely fascinating, when I've swapped women over and they suddenly come up with me with all this information that they just didn't have before, because if you don't see it, if you're not actually dealing with it, and it can give us so many clues. If it is particularly clotty, then we know we've got, in Chinese medicine, we've got blood stagnation going on, and we need to get more blood to the area. We need to get, the circulation moving. So it's really important actually how your cycle is currently, and also how it's been in the past, and to know that everything will have a reason. And I think the NHS seem to love this. What's it called? Something fertility. What's that word?
Undiagnosed. And
Undiagnosed.
but it's
Oh,
used as
I
if
love
it's the
that.
diagnosis. You have undiagnosed infertility.
Great. Super.
Like, yeah, it's like you have an undiagnosed health issue. That's not a diagnosis.
I love that one. And actually everything can get it. There is a reason that something's not happening. And in Chinese medicine, it's much easier. We know it can be because the body temperature is out of kilter. It could be because of blood stagnation. Yin and yang are obviously, we are balanced, and our body wants to be in a sort of homeostasis. It doesn't want to be dysregulated. And there are even just simple tests that I don't think the NHS particularly push, but they are, really easy. And one of them, I've spoken with Naomi about this before, is the Hycosi, which is a really simple test to make sure that the fallopian tube, the uterus is open, and the fallopian tube is also open, so that when the egg is released, the sperm can actually meet the egg. And in so many women, if you've had, COVID, or, a particular illness or something that's been sort of, whenever you get sort of just mucousy, those little tubes can stick together so easily, and suddenly sperm and egg can't meet. But when that exam or that test isn't done on enough women, and it just goes under the whole, you probably have to have IVF. And I'm just like, oh, let's just explore a little bit more. So, I think that when women are struggling, there are lots of things out there, that holistic practitioners can sort of guide and sort of lead you to as well. Poor Linda has been sitting there listening in. Do you want to
Very
introduce yourself?
interesting.
I know, isn't it? Do you want to just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
Okay, so I'm Linda Stevens. I'm a reflexologist. So we approach fertility in a very similar way to acupuncture. We're looking at the whole body. So we are thinking that your body needs to be in balance for it to work optimally. And one of the biggest things that puts us out of balance is stress. As both Naomi and Tiffany said, when our body is stressed, things close down. If we're in fight or flight, reproduction is not an essential part. Our body is preparing to save us from whatever it thinks is happening, and reproductive organs, the blood doesn't flow to them as well as it should. So we very much work on trying to get the body into a state of balance, to activate the parasympathetic, so that your body is in rest, digest, so your nervous system can work as it should, your circulatory system can work, your endocrine system is working, so your hormones are going to the right place at the right time and in the right amounts. So we will work on the feet. Your feet in reflexology represent your whole body. So we can isolate certain areas we want to. We can isolate the ovaries. We can isolate fallopian tubes, but it's not just for women. We can also work on men as well. So we have males that come in for reflexology. So we very much look at it as a couple's journey. It's not just the female. So although, as I'm sure Naomi and Tiffany were saying, most people who come in for infertility issues are female, but we do encourage the males to come along as well. So we will try and get all those parts of your body talking to each other again, so we can link them back up with each other. As Tiffany was saying, the HPO access is really important. We need to make sure that the different parts of your body can talk easily and sensibly to each other. We may need to relax some areas that are working far too hard, and actually to reduce the stimulus in other areas for them to calm down.
Amazing. It's amazing. Actually, you touched on something really important there about male fertility or infertility. And, I think that is, again, is another sort of world that we are sort of sleepwalking towards, that actually the sort of sperm counts now that we're seeing, 10 years ago, it used to be sort of 15% was kind of deemed okay. And now 6% is deemed okay. So it is, a lot of this often lands at the female's door, but I've definitely got clients that I'm seeing, and actually I have seen their husbands as well, but a lot, I do think that actually it is going to turn more towards the men in the sort of coming months, years ahead. Is there something on the feet that you often notice of people that are dealing with fertility? Can you sort of, sense something that's sort of across all fertility patients?
Yes. So when you're working on the feet, so if you're looking into the area of the ovaries or the uterus or maybe the thyroid, you can very much feel a difference. So as you're working along the feet, you'll come across an area that may feel like it's grains of sand under the skin. So where it was smooth, you will suddenly feel a change in texture. You may find puffiness, you may find dryness, temperature differences. All of these things, they're not a diagnosis that anything is wrong. It's just telling you that that area is slightly out of balance, that it needs a little bit of attention. So we would have a look at, if we were looking at the endocrine system, we wouldn't just look at the pituitary, we might look at the pancreas as well. We'd look at the adrenal glands. So we'd look at all of them and sort of see what the differences are within each of those points on the feet. And then we could work out how to link them back up to each other so they can start talking to each other again.
Great. And so do you also see, or how can reflexology help when people are sort of going down the more sort of IVF or assisted conception?
So, yeah, so some people are very nervous about using sort of complementary therapies alongside IVF. So before the IVF sequence, we can treat, and we would use it to stimulate hormone balance and hormone release if needed, if we felt that was needed stimulation, and also for stress relief. IVF is so stressful, and we know that stress inhibits fertility. So you're in this cycle of, you're desperately trying for a child, you are worried, you're in this, like they say, in the 2-week cycle of am I, aren't I, and then you're being told to relax. Which is sort of kind of impossible, really. And the more you try and relax, the more stressed you get, isn't it? Because that just becomes another job that you're doing, is trying to relax. So reflexology is amazing for stress relief and just for the body going back into kind of, some people refer to it as sort of the reset button. It's just going, that huge sigh, and also giving you a little bit of permission while you're lying there to kind of be invited back inside your body, to feel where things are. So yeah, I could be touching someone on your feet, and people go, oh, "I can feel that." And that it doesn't make logical sense to people, but they start going, "Oh my goodness, yes, I can feel that point." So it's that invitation just to stop and go, "Okay, yes, we're having IVF. Yes, this is very stressful." But as you said, Naomi, it's that thinking of those positive thoughts. This is a journey we're choosing to take. We need to do this in as relaxed a way as we can, and in the least stressful way, which I know is very difficult. So we can treat with reflexology during the down regulation phase if the client is happy as well, and the up regulation. We wouldn't treat for about a 36-hour time slot after priming, just so everything can settle. But after egg retrieval, again, we can do hormonal stimulation, more stress release, and after the embryo transfer as well. But this is all in conjunction with the client, and with your therapist as well, and your specialist. Everybody has to be happy, and that is really unique and individual as to your personal circumstances of where you are on your journey. But yeah, it's really, really helpful and supportive for people who are going through such a stressful and difficult time.
Yeah. And I think we've all touched on this sort of stress, and how stress inhibits actually what the body wants to do. And I'm just going to talk through a couple of things that I've been doing with clients that seem to have had amazing sort of results recently. And actually, Naomi's pulling on a little bit of what you do. So I was inspired. And sort of visualization. So I think, I'm just trying to think through. The majority of my patients at the moment are going through IVF. So we are looking at that sort of process. And I've got them all onto this the five senses. So going through the five senses and making sure that each one is catered for. And so for vision, we've been doing visualization and visualizing the uterus, and as a sort of nutritive little seed bed. So, in the sort of lead up to egg implantation, we're building that seed bed, and we want it to be full of, beautiful fertilization and beautiful soil and good circulation and nice and warm, and it's cozy and it's safe. And then visualizing little sprouts of green grass coming up you're creating this beautiful little home for the egg to go into. And at the same time, thinking about sound. So finding the sound that helps you relax. So whether that is music, whether it's a meditation, whatever it is, find it and take it to the clinic with you and have it there so it can, transport you sort of straight back. And taste dark chocolate, 90% chocolate is really good for you. So go for it, as you're going through all of this. Go for it. And then obviously the smells, we've got essential oils. I work a lot with essential oils. And we've got an amazing aromatherapist on the Seed team, but I'm getting a lot of my clients into using sort of frankincense, which is very grounding, or just allowing them to find a scent that really really goes for them. And then touch, making sure that we are warm. There's so many practices now that are cold. There's cold swimming phenomenon. There's like eating salads. Like you can't cook a bun. No, you have to cook a bun in an oven. We want the body to be warm. And so, I always say to my patients, go and get your wheat bag and pop it over your tummy, over the lower tummy, and then go through all the senses. And they're all coming in. They're loving it. Just putting those sort of few steps, making sure that all the senses are catered for. And yeah, we've got a month of transfers coming up. So it's a stressful month for me as well. I find it very stressful.
Do you remind people, so above my hypnosis tracks have the welcoming your embryo home track in there? And so that when you can actually listen to during transfer, and most clinics will either play it for you through their sound system, or you can see, take your phone and listen to it privately. But that's actually a track. It's 7 minutes long, and you listen to that day before, actually physically in the waiting room, and while you're having the transfer and afterwards. And it's all about welcoming your embryo back in. So sometimes, obviously, these cells have been taken from your body, introduced to the sperm, and embryo has been created. And then as it's coming back into your body, it is a foreign body. And so, especially if there are obviously people who have, like immunology, can't say that, immune issues, you might be having steroids and things to help welcome it back into your body. But we can also be doing that energetically with the track. And I've had embryologists say that women, it's been a lot easier for the embryologist to actually put the speculum in and put the embryo back in, because the woman herself is so much more relaxed because she has a focus rather than being like, Am I getting pregnant right now? Is this going to work? You've got to focus to be listening to.
Great. We'll try and put a link in the bottom somewhere so that people have that. So if you had to, or if you were thinking about, with clients coming in, what's one thing that you wish they would knew earlier? Or
Shall
they
I
could
go?
do earlier? Yeah, go on, Amy.
So I think the main thing is knowing that um, you don't have to do it alone. There are so many. I think when I first started going through this, as very much I was going to the doctor, I was going to the gynecologist, I was seeing the fertility specialist, and it was very much like do this, this, and this, but it was very medical, and I felt like just another number, especially going when we were going with the NHS. It's obviously like better when we were then going to a private clinic, but it was still like sort of here's your printed sheet, and it didn't feel like it was at all personalized to me. And then I had both acupuncture and reflexology on my own journey. And I really felt that the women I was seeing saw me and they were asking me questions about me instead of just like, oh, because sometimes I wasn't even asked like how long my cycle was or like yeah how heavy my periods were. So then when I went and people were asking me those questions, I was like, well yeah, I think that's a really valid question because my period's so heavy, I'm collapsed on the floor and I had endometriosis. And so understanding that you don't have to just go for like the medical route, you can also bring these beautiful holistic practices alongside and have a whole team of people supporting you. So I have clients that have an acupuncturist, have a reflexologist, have a therapist, have a fertility specialist, have a doctor, have a nutritionist. They have a whole team. And why not? This is such an important time in your life. And a lot of the things that you'll learn throughout this phase, you'll carry through into pregnancy and carry through into motherhood. So it's not just about investing the time and money now to get pregnant. You're also investing in these things. Like I still wear slippers all year round because my acupuncturist told me, she was like, don't ever get cold feet because yeah,
Yeah.
just no. All the time, I pack slippers when I go to friends' houses in case
Yeah.
they've got stone floors. And that's lived with me. And having like lemon in the morning, they're things that are still part of my life now, but that I started, over a decade ago.
Yeah. Great. What about you, Linda? Can you remember the question?
Yes, I can. And I think for me, I think it's a lot of the women that I see very much. It feels like a blame game. They're blaming themselves. They feel they've let their partner down. They've let
Yeah.
everybody down because that this is they feel should be such a natural, easy thing to do. And a lot of those women then close in on themselves and they stop talking to people about it.
Mm.
Uh, Quite often they can stop talking to their partners about it as well because they feel it's just so difficult and so painful. So it is finding that somebody, whoever that somebody is, that you actually can talk to and share it with your partner, share it with your best friend, share it with your therapist, whoever that person is. But your body isn't broken. It just needs a little bit of help and a little bit of support. And I think it's having those, as you were saying about visualizations, we often get people to visualize actually having that baby and sort of holding that baby. And, that like you say, that your womb is a safe space for them, especially if they've got really busy lives, how to sort of just stop and take that moment and actually, you know, as you said, Naomi, a majority of women will become pregnant at some point in some way. Not for everybody, and we have to remember that. But it's also remembering that your body wants to work with you, wants to do what you want it to do. And as you said, the mind is a very powerful thing as well. So with acupuncture, with reflexology, with life coaching, with everything, they all work together so beautifully. If you can have a positive mindset, relax your body into calmness, the mind and the body can work together. And I think it's remembering that the two things do work together. There's a constant feedback loop going on, and not to just keep it in your head and think about lists and sheets and timings and dates and things, but actually remember your body is this wonderful creation, and actually your mind and body need to work together. I
Yeah.
think is what I would take from it.
We are amazing beings. Do you know how big the uterus is? Like in
Is
real
it
life?
like the size of a fist or size of a walnut when you're not on your period and the size of your fist when you are?
Size of a walnut. It is that big. This little this tiny little organ. I did one of those courses, where you cut the body up. And I got obsessed with it. I couldn't stop looking at it. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I do all this work with all these people, and all these women are getting like so many problems from this big and this big. And I was pulling it apart, going, oh my God. Yeah, I thought that was absolutely, it blew my mind how small this organ is, that obviously, causes so much angst for all these women. Amazing. Is there any other sort of little tips, tricks, bits of advice you would like to share? Anything? Linda, do you want to go?
I think for me, if I can hold my hand up here, so something you can do really easily if you are feeling stressed is just to do where you bend your hand, where you have the crease. So down here, where the crease is, so just go up, press your thumb up and just press in that point there. That's your solar plexus. And that will really help reduce stress. So if you're going into an appointment, if you're really, really worried about something, just press it. You'll feel it. It'll start buzzing. Once you've got the spot, you'll feel a little tingling or a little buzz if you hold it. And that's a great way for reducing your stress. So if you have that moment where you're just thinking, oh my goodness, this is far too much, that's a little bit of hand reflexology that you can just do very easily.
So if it's where I think it is, so it's sort of slightly in between these two, is it?
Yeah, so think of, you've got your longest finger.
Yeah.
And just go down. So just sort of in between first finger, second finger, on the long crease.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got two acupuncture points here as well. So you've got a heart point and a pericardium point. So they're sort of both running there, and heart is your center for joy. So that's always a nice one to encourage. And the pericardium protects the heart. So yeah, that sort of same sort of place. That's quite nice. What about you, Naomi?
So one of the main techniques that I like to share with everyone is the yes please technique. So whenever you see of women who are pregnant or with young children, what can generally happen is we can get triggered and we can feel like, oh, we can like feel that tension in our body. And what's happening is because we're seeing what we want and our mind is going, that's what I want, but I don't have that yet. What if I never get that? Oh my God, what if I like what our thoughts are doing that whole train, and that's what is creating that horrible feeling in our body. And then we're pretty much turning away from what we want because it hurts. And so instead, what we want energetically is to be turning towards what we want. So if every time you see what you want, imagine it's the universe, God, your higher self, whatever belief system you have, saying, oh, is this what you wanted? And I want you to turn towards it and be like, yes, please. And imagine that you already have it. So yes, please. Thank you. Imagine you've already got it. And what this does is energetically spins around and creates what you want, becoming a glimmer instead of a trigger. So a glimmer is the opposite of a trigger. We're triggering positive emotions within our body. And this can be so hard to start with, especially if it's your work colleagues or friends or family. But if you can do this and switch it, it will show you how powerful you are at working with your mind and your thoughts and your body. So taking it, something that used to cause pain now causes pleasure in your body. And that then gets to be really fun.
Yeah, and I think it's, anxiety and excitement are actually incredibly close together. A lot of the symptoms of anxiety, the heart palpitations, the sweaty palms, is also excitement. So I spend a lot of time, talking about that connection, saying every time you feel that, you're like, oh my God, I'm anxious. No, you're not. You're excited.
Yeah.
You're excited. That's great. And just having that awareness, it's the same. A lot of our emotions, the positive and the negative, can be quite close in terms of the body's sort of reaction to them. So, that's always a good one as well. If you're feeling anxious, you're feeling uptight, you're not. You're just excited.
I think, as Naomi said earlier as well, it's thinking about, something that you can do quite easily is digestion is sort of quite often the forgotten link in fertility as well, but we need to nourish our bodies. So it's making sure that you do have all those correct nutrients and that you are eating well and not just eating a particular specific diet or something, that you're covering all options there. So that'd be another really sort of nice thing to take away and sort of maybe expand your cooking, expand your range of foods to bring everything in as well.
Chinese medicine has a lot of that. They have so bone broth. Anyone that's going through actually just women in general, to just be copious amounts of bone broth.
You don't have a chicken on your hob bubbling away
you're
at
out.
least once a month. What you're doing with your time.
Yeah. So yeah, bone broth is amazing. And the other thing is dates. Dates are really good for women's health as well. So yes, and they're lovely. I love dates. Dates with a bit of peanut butter actually is my newfound thing. So yeah, no, you're totally right. I think that I think that could almost be a whole conversation in itself, is sort of nutrition and fertility, and yeah, making sure that the body is absolutely at its peak performance, so that it actually wants to conceive and wants to procreate. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, you two. It's been inspiring, and it's we get very excited talking about what we're interested in and how we help people. So everything we've mentioned, we will try and put in a link at the bottom. If you are Henley based, you can come and see us for free at any time at the Human Repair Cafe at the King's Arms Barn on the last Friday of the month between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m. We will be there offering our advice and our support. Anything left to say, ladies?
No, just lovely to be here, and thank you for your time and listening.
Super.
Lovely so much. Should we all just share what our Instagram handles are if people want to follow us?
Yes, you can.
Extra inspiration. So I'm Embrace Fertility, and yeah, on Instagram and YouTube.
And I'm Inner Soul Reflexology, which is inner_reflexology, and you'll find me there.
And I am at .9 Acu, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Never know these things. Super. Well, thank you all and have a great rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.